All right, welcome everybody to a special edition of Saturday's Night Live. You'll notice our loyal host Trevor is not with us, but instead I have a very special guest whom I am honored to have here this evening. My older brother, who taught me everything I know
That's
and most
right.
of what I don't know. This is Spencer. Um,
I,
Spencer, why don't you tell us a little bit about your fandom and just so you can give credibility to your voice tonight.
I don't think I have any credibility. I guess I'm the poor man's Trevor tonight, but um, yeah, I mean, I'm dyed in the wool, diehard, true blue Cougar fan. My earliest memories are watching a rerun of the Miracle Bowl that I didn't know was a rerun in the living room with Dad. So nail biter.
That is how Dad indoctrinated. I mean, that's
Yeah,
hardcore. Is
yeah,
play the VHS of the Miracle Bowl,
yep.
and
Well,
make
and
you
I
think
don't
it's a
think it
real
was
game.
even a VHS. I think it was a rerun on like KBYU or something. And he's like, "Oh, that's on. Let's watch this." And but he didn't tell me. I was too young to even realize it wasn't like football season or anything. So,
Nice.
and yeah, so I got to catch the occasional game in person at Cougar Stadium before it became LaVell Edwards Stadium. So, yep,
Awesome. Well, big win tonight. Just to set the ground a little bit, the comments are not functioning tonight. Trevor's our comment man, and this is usually a show where we get to celebrate with you and get feedback and have a conversation. Come back on Monday. We'll have those conversations ready, but due to technical difficulty, we won't have that tonight. But we'll certainly give you our take on the game because that was that that was incredible. Spencer, first reactions. What do you got?
Oh man, that was a fun game to watch, and it felt a lot different than in recent years. Going down in the first half like we did, my thoughts were at the time was, man, if we can weather this, I think that they can figure things out in the second half and come back. And so, as they got driving down there to score, I was like, man, if you can get a score and put a one-score game as go into halftime, like that would be perfect. Like I would feel pretty comfortable with this team being able to put it together, even with LJ out. It was pretty impressive. I think we've had the inkling that Bear could probably do it with his arm, but we haven't had to and haven't gotten to see that yet because when you got a horse like LJ, you got to ride it. And so, we haven't had to do that. And with him out and Moa out, it was like, I think maybe he can pull this off. And sure enough, they figured it out. And boy, that was a really, really fun second half.
That was a fun second half. You had a lot more hope than I did. I thought with LJ out and our defense just seemingly unable to stop this tight end centric run game slash dink and dunk passing. I thought I was more concerned about the defensive side. I thought Bear would be able to get down there. We'd be able to get a couple scores. To me, it's a much more fun offense like that. I like the pass centric offense.
Yep.
I agree. When you have somebody as good as LJ, you got to give him the rock. We were saying that all last year. Why is he only getting 15,
Yeah.
16 carries? Now he's at
Right.
25, 30 carries sometimes, and that's probably where you want him to be. It's been super effective. This run centric, lockdown defense approach has gotten us to 7-0, and all of a sudden it's LJ's gone, Cialia Sarah is
Yep.
out, and you can see him just gashing us on defense. And it just
Yep.
felt like with the injuries and being on the road, it was going to be too much. And so coming out of the second half, I thought, well, we'll see if we can make the defensive adjustments. And they did. What, 3 points in the second half?
Yeah. That's so impressive. And that's why I say, like, Jay Hill, he has yet to be. If you watch those stats that they throw up during the game, their defensive stats for the last 2 years are just like mind-boggling, and so I think it's hard for somebody to pull one over on Jay Hill for a full game. So that's where I was thinking, like, I think he can go in at halftime, make some adjustments. At the time we still had Kelly and Glasgow, and you see those defensive linemen come on late in the game recently. So I was hopeful that would come, which is way different than I've had a different attitude than I've had with my Cougars,
Yeah.
probably ever, but definitely in the last 15 years.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was just a feeling that you get going into halftime of some of these games, and you come out and you kind of lay an egg. And BYU's done that randomly. I
Yeah.
can almost tick off the games over the last 3 or 4 years where we do that, and you just feel like by the time halftime rolls around or beginning of the third quarter, you're like, well, I don't know. I'm watching because I can't turn it off, but I wish I could.
Yep. Yep. It's
But
true.
but it just the team has something else. They've got another gear, and I do think it starts with Jay Hill and his adjustments. Um, and to have a coach like that, where you can absorb that hit, because I feel like a lot of teams have done this to us. Colorado comes out and just punches us in the face, and everybody's like, "Well, they were running stuff we didn't see, for the past 3 games," and Arizona did the same thing, and so I think that's kind of
Yeah.
everybody's mo to go after our stellar defense is like, well, let's just throw something crazy at them, and it hits us for 2 or 3 drives, and then Jay Hill seemingly every time adjusts and adjusts and adjusts, and they keep coming through in the clutch.
He figures it out. And I think the depth really helps too. The depth that we're seeing at this point in the game, this point in the season, because we haven't had depth like that. And so you just watch that go and it's like, man, the next one up maybe is a step down from like a Kelly or a Glasgow or a, who's our
The
safety that's
this
out. You
Yeah,
lose some
Mooney.
defensive backfield. I mean, but they're not that far behind, and they can keep up most of the time. You've seen some younger mistakes from some of these subs, but they're getting some game experience and they're showing it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You saw Max Alford out there stepping in for Sarah, and he looked lost at times. And especially during
Mm-hmm.
that first half when they were running all over us, I'm like, man, it just feels like they're targeting Max Alford, who gets out
Yeah.
of position a little bit, and the offensive lineman gets leverage on him, and you blow in these huge holes because of it. And then second
Yep.
half, he adjusts, and he's out there
Yeah.
making tackles in the backfield. And I agree, the Big 12 depth is on display. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but what do you do at running back at this point? I mean, looking forward, you're going on the road against Tech. Um,
Yep.
it didn't sound good for LJ Martin taking X-rays on his street clothes immediately. Who knows? Hopefully it's not, but it was a shoulder, right? He lowers his shoulder into the guy.
It
So
didn't even look that bad. In fact, it looked like he punished the defender more.
it
But
did.
man, you watch him, they zoomed right in on the sideline and you don't see him run right back out. And I went, oh, that doesn't look good. But, Jack Kelly's looked pretty rough. He came out in street clothes in a sling.
That's true.
And he
Which
was
is different.
back going, the next week, like, oh, we could play him, but we'll hold him out and give ourselves,
Yeah.
a little breathing room. And you got a bye week coming up. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do at running back if he can't go. But I think Bear showed, I mean, they got a jet sweep game. I think Rex and Nawahine are serviceable.
Yeah.
And you've always got Bear as a threat to run. So they have to account for that. I mean, whether it's a drawn up quarterback draw or whether he's just, on the fly trying to throw it and then he goes, no, it's not there, but I've got 10 yards. I'm just going to go take it.
Right. Right. And that's what I liked about this. The second half offense is the offense that I like watching, and I
It
think
is
I
so
think it was
fun.
a little bit closer to what we've had in years past. We've been so power run centric, and I think that's a combination of you got a true freshman quarterback, you're bringing him along, you're being cautious, which
Yep.
they did in exactly the right way.
Yep.
I don't think anybody could say that that was a mistake, and
No.
you're leaning on LJ so heavily.
Yep.
And I was just as I thought back to the last couple games. I'll take a win no matter what. But power run is the most boring way to play besides maybe the triple option. And so you're scoring
Yep.
touchdowns, you're winning, you're beating your rival. Like I won't complain a bit about that. But man, when they unleash the bear in the second half, and you've got
Yeah.
what 2 100-yard receivers, and he goes
Yep.
over 300 yards, I think for the first time.
Yep.
Maybe he did against West Virginia, but
Yeah, I think he's got one other 300-yard game, but
yeah. And he just goes to town on that. And it was so much fun. It was exciting football. And I love it when the defense drops back like that in coverage. It's so different because then he had these huge running lanes,
yeah, open
some
lanes.
of which he
And
didn't
he's
take, but
right. He's so smart about it too. That at the end of the game when he slides down, let's not take a hit. Let's keep the clock running. You're not going to score on that one, and you don't need it. You're 2 scores up. Just get that clock going.
yeah.
He's so impressive.
I know. Well, and it seemed like that discipline goes throughout the team. And before I make this comment, I'll just a reminder: anybody else that's joining us, we don't have comments available. I know this is a show where we really like a lot of back and forth. We celebrate together. Come back Monday evening, we'll have those comments back on. But right now, Spencer and I are giving our analysis. Trevor's out for the evening, so again, if you weren't there at the beginning, Spencer, my infinitely wise and seemingly all-knowing older brother, has joined us for his analysis. But
Mm.
I love the discipline of the team. The Evan Johnson slide at the end of the game is just a small example of that. He gets that pick and he's not going to take the hit. And just the maturity across the board. It speaks again of really well coached players. They know what they're
Yep.
doing. They got a goal in mind, and they've just it doesn't matter the obstacle that comes up. Where in years past it's like, well, man, I thought we could vie for the conference championship, but we're 4 games in and we laid an egg on the road. And these
Yep.
guys just keep going and going and going.
Yep. It's awesome.
Um, so looking ahead, since I've got you here for this episode, give us your assessment next week on Tech. How does BYU approach that? And then what do you see for the rest of the year? Can BYU actually vie for a spot in Arlington?
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati's looking better and better every week, so that's probably going to be a lot tougher than it looked. And you know, they took Iowa State down, so that's going to be a tough one. Tech's going to be a tough one. I think that this team is capable of winning any of those games, and I think they're going to win 3 of the 4. I really think they have a decent chance of coming off of a bye and being able to scheme for Tech, getting healthy. But that will be a tough game. And if I had to pick one that they're going to lose, it's going to be that one. But they get UCF and TCU at home. I mean, you know, these aren't the teams of years past, the BYU teams of years past that you worry about them laying an egg in one of these home games. It's like, man, you should have this. Like, you know, there's still a little bit of that hint of playing down to your competition, but I really think those 2 games they've got in the bag without being too confident. And then I think they can at least split Tech and Cincinnati. And I actually think, I mean, the way this conference race is shaping up, I think a 2-loss team can get in like last year. I think it's going to be tough to have, you know, 1 loss in conference, and I think there'll be multiple 2-loss teams that that will be contending for getting a spot in there, and it's going to come down to those tiebreakers again. So I think BYU's in a really good position because even if they do lose those 2, I think they'll still be in contention.
So you like us at 11-1,
Yeah,
splitting a
11-1.
Cincinnati.
Yep. I can't see it worse than 10-2. I mean, I think this team is really good. You heard RG3 last week, right? This ceiling is national championship. Yeah. I'm not quite ready to call that. I think they are really pretty legit. And maybe if you're saying like operating on all cylinders, everybody playing at their best, no injuries, could they compete with anybody? Yeah, probably. But, you know, calling that ceiling right now at this point in the season with everything that's going on, and you've got 4-game, you know, gauntlet to get through, and then you got to play in a championship game, and then you got to go to the playoff. And you know, the respect they're getting at the moment is if you do go 11-1 or 10-2, and you do get to the championship game, you're not getting a favorable seed in that playoff, and so then you've got a tougher road to get there. So, but yeah, I like this team, man. I think they're so legit. More than any other team. You know, Kalani's culture. They've got the culture. They've got the win with less mentality and practice for years and years and years, taking what, you know, little scraps they could get and doing, you know, punching above their weight. And now they've got the talent. They've got the money. And man, I think the sky's the limit. And if Bear continues to improve, I mean, he's hard to stop. You look at these defenses and, you know, what answer do they have? They can't pick to stop everything, and he can pick them apart as we just saw today, and he can run all over them. It's so fun.
It is, man. And Bear is he's so multiple, like you said, in the ways he attacks a defense. And it's clearly a different era of BYU. And like you said, it feels like we were prepped so long by having the 60th ranked recruiting class perennially, and then getting to the top 25 or close to the top 25 every year. Well, now you're bringing in 19th ranked recruiting class, and you got a 4-star quarterback running the team,
Yep.
and it's just different. It just hits different
Yep.
the way BYU is approaching it, um, and it's been fun to watch. I read an article this week that said not on defense but on offense, BYU may be too reliant on your workhorses on the Bachmeyer, Martin, Kingston, and Roberts combo. Because it seems like in years past, BYU's distributed the ball to so many different receivers, and you didn't have a one guy who's going to go for 1,000 yards. Now you might have two guys that go for 1,000 yards. Are we too reliant on, given the Martin injury? Are we too reliant on those guys, and are we going to get exposed?
I mean, I would think that today would have exposed that if you're going to have one. You know, if there's an exposure, like I say, I think you've got the next guy up that maybe is a step down. But I think that, you know, like I say, I think Nawahine and Rex can be serviceable. They can provide enough of a threat. You got, you know, get the receivers involved in the run game. And I mean, you know, you saw Tiger get a couple of catches today. And I think that uh, if they try to expose that, the you've got other places to go. I don't think it's a drop to say like, oh, you know, you got to throw it to Cody Hagan or Carson Ryan or, you know, Tiger Bachmeyer. Like you can get these guys involved and and continue to play. So I don't see it being an issue at least yet. And I think, you know, if it was going to be an issue, today would have done it because they were in a tight spot when they lost LJ. I just
Yeah.
Bear is just so impressive. You know, the thing that stands out to me is I think it was the East Carolina game where he had I think it was a bobbled snap, and LJ was standing behind him, and you can see in the slow motion he pitches it back. He doesn't pitch it; he like hits it because he's bobbling this
Yeah.
thing. But he's got the presence of mind. He's getting dragged by 2 or 3 defenders. He's bobbling this thing, trying to come down with it, and he's realizing, I don't think I can come down with this in the midst of these guys. My reliable running back is standing 3 yards back. Nobody's touching him. Nobody's around him. He just knocks it back to him, and LJ falls on it. Like, it's a loss of a play, but man, that could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
He plays with such a presence of mind. You know, whatever the situation, we've now seen him in hostile environments, as hostile as they can come. You know, we've seen him under duress. We've seen him with the game on the line. I mean, so impressive. So, yeah, I mean, if Bear goes down, I don't know. You know, we haven't had to see what Hillstead or Bourget or whoever steps in could do. But, you know, as long as he's in there, I don't know that we have a lot to worry about.
Yeah, it sure feels like that. It sure feels like that, and the, you know, being built like a centaur seems to prevent all injuries because he's taking some shots, man. And I was really happy to see him slide um, on one of his big runs towards the end of the game. And I was
Yep.
watching with my kids and like, whoa, what did he do? He had like 10 more
Yep.
yards. I'm like, I know, but that's exactly what we want Bear
Smart
doing
play.
because
Yeah.
Martin's down, you can't lose Bear.
Yeah.
If you got Martin, you may be able to get by with Hillstead, right? And just a steady
Right.
feed the rock, run some play action, you could probably do it.
Yep.
But yeah, but Bachmeyer certainly at this point his health becomes a
It's
premium.
paramount. Yeah, it really is. And he's good at that. He's good at knowing, you know, when to pull it. He's just good at, I mean, Heather made the comment during the game today, like he just seems to know how to fall. You know, I think it was RG3 was talking about, which by the way, having him commentate 2 games in a row,
Isn't it
I mean,
so
that's
great?
a real treat. That's a real treat. But but I mean, he was commenting in the Utah game after that hurdle. He like fell just right. You know, saw the guy coming in to take his
Toe
legs out and
taps, absorb the hit.
and just takes the hit, rolls over, doesn't, you know, tear an ACL or sprain an ankle. I mean, man, smart all the way around.
Yeah, and I think RG3 makes that comment because his career was shortened by a couple hits where he just fell funny, and
Yep.
that hits home for him. And I agree, man. I
Yep.
love RG3, and I can't remember the play-by-play guy who now lives in infamy for his Bear on the Loose call.
No, it's the guy that was on the call today.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to think of his name.
It's RG3's partner, and I can't remember his name
Yeah,
either.
he's awesome. I'm sure if you guys know, you can
Yeah.
put it in the comments. We'll see it afterwards. But
Yep.
awesome duo. I agree. Having those two do it 2 weeks in a row was that was great.
Yeah.
Um, but one point on that is that it looks like we'll get JoJo Phillips back next week, and I think that's important because it feels like you
Yep.
need a third guy when you go against some elite secondaries. They're going to have a
Yep.
couple shutdown corners who are just going to go man to man with Chase and Kingston, and if we
Yep.
really are going to be an air raid offense for a couple weeks while we're waiting for Martin to get back or Sione Moa to get back. Then yeah, I think you need a third option in there along with Carson Ryan, who I think has been good. Cody Hagan is clearly fast, good hands. I just don't see him getting a lot of attention. I wonder if it's his route running or something that's going to develop over the next couple years.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure why they're not throwing to him as much either. Again, like I say, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just the guys that are there and they're open and you're using them. If one of them goes down, I'm not too worried about it until they prove that it's because he can't run a route or he can't,
Yeah,
pull the ball in when he needs to or something. So,
yeah, good point. Well, I tend to agree with you on the remainder of the season. It looks bright. I mean, sitting at 8-0 is huge, and I know you can't take anything for granted because last year we sat at 9-0. But it feels like that attitude now permeates throughout the team. The fact that we can come off of the Holy War and win a game like this with so much adversity,
yep,
and come out on top, it just feels like the team is so locked in to say, look, we're not gonna have a dud, right? We might get beat. You might get beat by a good Texas Tech team or a good Cincy team on the road. Um, but I am excited. While I don't feel overly confident at all going into Tech because a lot of respect for how good that team is. You gotta like what Jay Hill can do with time to prep.
yep, you
And
really
and
do.
that's what excites me about this. We do get some time to get a little healthier, but with a little time, Jay Hill does some really fun things, and he's going to have 2 weeks to prepare
Yep,
for that Texas Tech offense. And who knows if Baron Morton's going to be back, if they still got their backup in.
yep.
So there's a lot of intrigue going into that game.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be a fun one. I'm happy for that one, win or lose. And I really think it could go either way. That could definitely be our first loss. But it's awesome to be watching a team that you can even go, okay, well, we might lose that one, but man, it still looks bright.
But you still got to show everything's still in front of you if you lose a game. That's a luxury we have never had.
Yep,
Um, in BYU football. So it is pretty cool to play ourselves into this position. But
absolutely.
well, Spencer, thanks for joining. Thanks everybody who joined us this evening. Again, come back Monday evening. We'll have our standard weekly podcast there. Trevor will be back. We'll excuse him for his holiday Halloween festivities this evening, but he'll be back on Monday, and hopefully you'll be with us there, and we can celebrate this win together and talk a little bit about the bye week. Look ahead to Texas Tech. So
Thanks
thanks
for having
everybody.
me.
Yeah, go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
down.